Hey everyone, I binged 5 seasons of the anime series Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba because the Infinity Castle films, incredible storytelling, beautiful graphics, and the amazing fan community pulled me in and made me want to know more. I went into Infinity Castle as a complete novice. I knew nothing about what I was stepping into except that the movie was beginning the series' final arc. My question was simple: could this film hook me as a newcomer? Within 30 minutes, the answer was yes. I did a review about that. When I posted my review, the fan response was amazing, and it exemplified the best parts of fandom. Instead of gatekeeping and people who, wanted to make sure that I belonged in the group, people were welcoming and they encouraged me to explore the series from the start because they wanted to share it with me as a complete package. So I did. I started with season 1, episode 1 on Netflix. And before long, I had consumed every available episode. Then I went back to the theater and I rewatched Infinity Castle. And here's what surprised me. Binging the series was a great way to experience Demon Slayer. That immersion made great use of the pacing, making it feel sharper, and the arc flowed so much more seamlessly. I have to say that I think that it was probably a different experience than if I had seen it in a weekly release schedule. I ended up getting a bit obsessed with the story, I must admit, and that's the kind of joy you only get when you arrive late to the party. So I arrived late to Demon Slayer, and I got to just binge the whole thing as a first time viewer, and it was so satisfying. I loved it. I loved not having to wait for each new episode. I just got to watch them. Now I just have to wait for the last 2 movies of the final arc. So, after doing that, I just had to talk about my reaction to this series. It turns out that I actually have a lot to say, which means I had to break this into 2 parts. This part is my initial reaction to the series as a whole and how it stacks up to my favorite fantasy series out there. Part 2 will dig into the characters a little more, into the story and the structure of the series. All right, so let's get into it. What makes Demon Slayer so different from so much of the other stuff that's out there? There are a lot of things that work especially well in Demon Slayer, but the core of the series really is its characters. The story treats them like real people. They have to work for their skills. They don't always get along. And guess what? They're mortal. They can get hurt. Parts of this series remind me of the kids in the Harry Potter films as they go through their adventures, learning new skills and leveling up to the next big confrontation. The Demon Slayers are not superheroes. They don't just get to do things immediately without any training like we get with a lot of superhero movies nowadays. And these are people who did not choose this life for adventure or glory. Almost every demon slayer carries tragedy with them. They have lost family, friends, or entire communities. Their fight, it's personal. The characters are not flawless. Some are arrogant, some are insecure, some are reckless, and some are almost too noble for their own good. Each one feels like a real person rather than a plot device, which is so refreshing. When they stumble or fall, it matters because their failures really echo throughout the story. The demons themselves, they're not just one note villains either. Many have these heartbreaking stories that show just how far they have fallen. This layering makes every fight feel tragic as well as thrilling. Each season brings a new story arc that explores the past of a Hishira or a demon while also showing Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Inosuke, or some other student in the series growing as they increase their skill and their confidence. Whether it's the Mugen Train or the Entertainment District or the Swordsmith Village or somewhere else, Each arc has its own clear purpose and avoids unnecessary filler. Not every challenge results in victory, and some of those losses are just as formative as the wins, revealing these new layers of strength and skill that have been earned. While some scenes do linger just a little bit longer than they need to, it never feels like the characters are just being pushed around a chessboard or forced into artificial conflict. Their choices feel authentic to who they are. What I really admired most is that the characters do not make foolish decisions just to move the plot forward, like we see in a lot of films nowadays. While it's a completely different style of storytelling from, say, The Lord of the Rings, we get the same intentionality from each choice that every character makes. Every lesson, every failure, and every conversation carries weight and often reappears later in the story in some way. That level of discipline, it's hard to find in today's entertainment landscape. And it's one of the reasons that Demon Slayer stands apart. That kind of structural precision, it feels rare lately because even when the focus shifts to a new set of characters, the threads always tie back to the larger story arc for the series itself. Nothing is wasted, and that's what makes the story hold together so well across all 5 seasons and into the Infinity Castle arc. Every story, it has flaws, even the ones we love. Demon Slayer is no exception, though its missteps really never broke me out of the experience, so they were a little easier to overlook. Some of the pacing can feel pretty uneven at times, especially in the training arcs. These moments are important, though, because it keeps the characters from being Mary Sue's or Bobby Sue's or whatever you want to call them if they're boys. But they sometimes do dwell a little bit too long in like the recovery scenes or the mastery of a single technique. I understand why they are needed. And when you binge the series, the good thing is that they actually move those slow spots along really quickly. So they're not that noticeable. Still, if you were watching week to week, it might have felt like not that much happened in some episodes and a lot happened in other episodes, which could create that uneven feel. Another issue is how, I guess, unevenly the Hashira are explored. Some, like Rengoku or Kenroji or Tokito, are given unforgettable arcs. I have to say, they are my favorite Hashira. I love them all. Others remain mostly symbolic so far in the story or serve as mentors during different training moments. You sense their power, you get how important they are to the story, but you don't always get what the personal stakes are for them, which leaves these small gaps in the emotional fabric of the story for those other Hashira. I'm guessing that Infinity Castle, the rest of the arc, will resolve some of those gaps, and we'll get to see how the rest of the Hashira really kind of come together and how they've grown and kind of what they're experiencing in that final part of this adventure. It also wasn't until I had watched all 5 seasons that I realized how much Nezuko's absence from Infinity Castle matters. I mean, I finished watching the series, then I rewatched the movie, and I'm like, where is she? Suddenly, I mean, I understand why she wasn't in the movie as much as I was hoping she would be, but man, I love that girl. I love her. She and Tanjiro are honestly my favorite characters. They're adorable. The relationship between Tanjiro and Nezuko is the emotional core of this series. And in Infinity Castle, we only get half of that dynamic, which I never realized when I first watched that film as kind of a newbie. Still, I'm confident that the next installment is going to bring her back into focus and restore that balance. Finally, there is one dropped thread in how Muzan kind of views Tanjiro and Nezuko. Early in the story, demons are on the alert for them, but by season 4 and 5, that urgency kind of fades away, at least until Nezuko's transformation becomes known. During that time, Muzan shifts his attention away from Tanjiro and focuses entirely on the Hashira, even though Tanjiro is really the common thread in defeating every one of those upper level demons, even if he's not the one that struck the final blow. The story would have felt just a teensy bit tighter if Muzan's recognition of Tanjiro had remained consistent. As I watched season 5, there were these moments when Muzan's arrogance kind of reminded me of Star Wars, when those key confrontations between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader and the Emperor in the original series. Because on one hand, you have a young, idealistic boy who's kind of lost everything and he's thrown into this new situation. He meets a mentor who believes in him, his talent shines, and suddenly the Empire takes notice, setting its sights on him and the rebellion in a whole new way. And that's kind of what happens here. It's a story of hope, and it feels like hope that's earned because of who the young hero is and how he just never gives up. There's so much about Demon Slayer that echoes the heart of early Star Wars and the warmth of its fan community. Watching it reminded me of why I fell in love with fandom in the first place, for that shared excitement, for the optimism, and the belief that stories like this can still mean something. These flaws, while they exist, they're small. They never lessened my admiration or enjoyment of Demon Slayer, though it would have felt wrong not to mention them here because sometimes flaws are part of what makes a thing feel so good to watch. So, is Demon Slayer worth watching? I think you can tell from my reaction here that I am a fan. I love this series and I will likely make it one of my annual rewatches because it's such a good story. If you want to try something new and check out a great anime story, Demon Slayer is definitely worth watching for a few episodes just to see if it's for you. And I think you're probably going to like it. For me, Demon Slayer has become one of the greats. I'd consider it in line with Star Wars, The Lord of the Rings, and Harry Potter. I know not everyone is going to feel that way, but there's just something about this story that just, I don't know, it gelled for me and I love it. It's at that level of storytelling. The difference with it is that it's told through an anime and manga art style, and it's grounded in Japanese culture and myth. And that kind of sets it apart, but it also adds this new layer to the story that you just couldn't get anywhere else. That is why Demon Slayer is more than just another anime series, I think. It combines tragedy and discipline and rich world building into a story that holds its own beside the most beloved franchises in fantasy. This is the first half of my discussion. In part two, I'm going to dive a bit deeper into Tanjiro and Nezuko and the Hashira and just the artistry of the series and, of course, Muzan himself. Until then, I would love to hear what your thoughts are. What are your favorite characters so far? Which moments from the series left the biggest impression on you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because this is a story that deserves to be talked about. Thanks for being here, you guys. And also, I just want to say a shout out to all of the Demon Slayer fans who encouraged me to watch this series from the start. Thank you, guys. I love it. I love you guys. This is a community that I'm really glad to be a part of because it's such a warm environment and such a great story. Thank you for sharing it with me. And please do check out part 2 of my Demon Slayer series reaction. I'll see y'all again soon. Until then, bye for now.